All right, after an eventful morning, going to doctors and running errands, I guess I'm going to have to make a video about the Swiss rifle and the spring and repair, because I believe it started some sort of a shitstorm, and well, we're going to go on. What I started off was kind of a thing about troubleshooting, and the reason I took that venue with troubleshooting is because I get asked a ton of questions from people about all kinds of problems they have. And kind of like the message I was trying to send is, some of the stuff's common sense. Use your head, other than trying to just come out of the blue and tell me about this weird stuff that happens to your gun and how do I fix it, for like free. So, we'll go back to the troubleshooting. So, we take the rifle out. We go to shoot it. Nothing happens. Okay, so, using a systematic way of looking at the problem. Number one, firing pin. Is it the firing pin? Also, when I fired the rifle, I kind of noticed this compared to the others. There was something not quite right when it was going down, even when I dry fired. It's like a dragging or something. Okay, I could feel this when I went to shoot. Something wasn't quite right with the functioning of the bolt. Okay. That is why I come up with, and we'll go on. So we go, take the bolt apart. So we go, all right, let's look at the firing pin. Is the tip broke off? Is the tip been ground? Start number one, firing pin. Firing pin looks okay, but I kind of noticed, and this is the spring that was in there, this thing compared to others will move. And I thought maybe that somehow when this was going down, the bolt body itself, something was amiss. The spring or something was dragging, or maybe this was cocked or moving and there was a dragging. So in the field, I took this out and, as best I could, look down through where the little channel is and make sure there's nothing in there or anything. Okay, so we go. So, I get home and I look at it, and I look at it again. I notice the spring. The spring appeared very weak to me. Okay, and in my experience with a lot of these older guns, especially the ones that are 100 years old or something, a lot of times the springs are weak. Okay, and so next step is, I think something's wrong with the spring. Let's replace the spring. So, when I took it apart and looked at it, or got the replacement spring, okay, I kind of jumped the gun because it was quite obvious. Now, since we all like instant replays, I'm going to give you an instant replay of the video I made showing the spring I took out and this new spring, but pay attention to the noticeable. I didn't measure it. I didn't put calipers on it because it was blatantly obvious that the other spring is way shorter. Okay? This is the 21-pound spring here. And we will take it out of its package and take a look. Okay. Right there, side by side. First of all, the spring is longer, okay? Okay, as you see, the spring that's in here was way, way shorter than the replacement spring, okay? I made the mistake of not measuring that to show you. Now, I did measure the outside and say there was a difference, which the new spring is, like 4,660, okay? And we looked the other older spring, it was like 490. So, you can take the spring and go like this, it might feel good, but don't really fucking prove nothing. Alright, so let's look at this old spring compressed. We know that it's 490. And also making this measurement was thrown around, and everybody's asking questions about it. Okay. When you measure springs, you go by diameter, coil thickness, number of coils per inch, and length. This is out of the K31. Okay. So if you measure them, the Wolf spring is going to be smaller, 660. The springs that come out of the guns are about 490. This one's 490, 492. Okay? So that is the diameter that they have for the Swiss springs. So why don't we do something intelligent and measure the inside of this bolt, which comes out to 510 thousandths. So that's about 20 to 18 thousandths play in there, which is more than ample. Okay, that shouldn't be a problem. Nothing should be dragging, the Swiss springs or the other springs. So now let's measure the spring down here when it's compressed, and we'll measure the base of the firing pin. Okay. Base of the firing pin is 495 thousandths. Now the spring itself, that's at 500, half inch. So you got, as you compress the spring, it does become wider. Okay, springs are funny like that. So, take this in again. Like I said, very little. The reason why I say it's weak, very little pressure. Okay? And another thing, let's look at it this way. How many coils are sticking up? You know? There. So, I did not measure the length of the spring. Okay? So we'll do that now. Sorry about that. I got to steady my arm to do this. Putting light pressure on it, it comes out to 2-inch 120 thousandths. Okay? On the new Wolf spring, it comes out to 2-inch 330 thousandths. So that is a 210 thousandths difference in the length. Yep, 1, 2, double check that. So it's almost a 1/4 inch shorter. Alright? That's what I believe is wrong. Number 2 reason why the gun isn't functioning. Okay? Now, also it has been brought up by several people that when this functions together and goes down, the last part of this is where this is locking into here. And that locks the action. Okay, so now we did the instant replay in the other video where you could see that when the gun was being fired, this handle was jumping up a little. So everyone says the ammunition isn't chambering all the way. But eventually, probably after it was tapped down, I can see the conclusion. The ammunition will go off. Could be. The reason I did not look into that is because the ammunition functioned in the 1889 and it functioned in the two other 1910s. So, after making the call about the spring, and if you leave the spring out, it gets longer. Okay, it'll go back. So springs are funny. Okay, and there's really no way to tell. The best thing is, if you think it's the spring, just replace it. Then you can eliminate the spring from the equation. I made the measurement on the outside. Everybody's citing the difference of 10, 20 thousandths on the diameter. The foreign-made springs are larger in diameter than the Wolf springs. Okay? And like I said, you got 10 thousandths play in there. So actually, this spring being smaller in diameter, when it's compressed, a little bit smaller in there, probably be better. So if you can just realize the spring, its length, like we said here, this is another factor. Okay, there's the length of the old spring. When you look, a couple coils. And there's the new spring. As you see, more than a couple coils. Okay, a little bit more. Okay, so from all the instant replays in that, obviously this spring is weak and compressed and may have been the cause of the malfunction. So, like I said, we'll replace the spring and go from there. Now, another thing. If this gun is not locking up because of the ammo, this is the consensus because we like to look. I went back and seen it. Every time I pull the trigger, that thing would move up. Okay. So, we'll go to number 3. We did 1, firing pin, ain't it? 2, the spring. And now, if I was given time, we would go out and try to shoot this rifle once again. Okay? Now, ammo, because everyone said, oh, ammunition, and the whole consensus is there is okay. So, the ammo works in the other guns. So what does that tell us? That tells us that if it chambers in the other guns and doesn't chamber well in this gun, and it is a problem with the ammunition, then we have to look at this rifle closer. It's going to be number 3. Okay? Upon examining this gun, a couple things I did notice. If you looked at stain there, that's kind of dried oil. Okay? People oil this, let it set for years. There's some of it, you see where it just set, however the gun was set, the oil went there and it's on one half of the bolt or other. So what I'm going to do is take this down and get some carburetor cleaner and try to get the sticky oil and stuff off of this. Doesn't appear to be any damage to the lugs, cracks, or anything in this part of the body. Nothing here. Nothing really. I think there were a few. There's a few dings by where the serial number is. So this gun may have gotten banged around a little. There's some scratches here on the body, but this is not a moving or reciprocal part. Looking down into the bolt where the firing pin rides, everything looks okay. A little bit of battering. Maybe wouldn't hurt on that inside lip in there to hit that with a file or a stone or something, and it looks a little beat up, and there is some indentation, so cleaning that little thing up inside there might help. Okay, then we will go out and we will try to shoot the gun once again just to see how it all works out. Now, a couple other things. Why we got everything apart here. Okay, but that's the next step. in the troubleshooting, okay, is we'll get this back together, we'll put the new spring in there, and we'll see if it works. If it doesn't, that means we have to look at something else. So, bearing that in mind, we'll get a step ahead of ourselves, clean all the dried oil, any kind of nicks or dents, we'll hit them with a stone or a file. So, we got our spring here. We took the spring out of the K31. So, what's our K31 spring? And it worked fine. That is 2 inch 210 thousandths. That one was 2 inch 330 thousandths. And then the bad one was 2 inch 120. So about 100 thousandths difference. This spring is compressed. Okay, it's a bad spring. I said it was the wrong spring, and everyone gets upset because it is an actual spring that belongs in the gun. It's just compressed and out of shape. So it is no good. Okay? Simple as that. Sorry for saying it was the wrong spring. It just, when I put that one next to it, it was so short it did not look like it belonged in there. Speaking of springs, let's look at another. I have the firing pin assembly from an 1889. And we're going to take that spring out. And we're going to look at that. Whoa! Yeah! That is way different. But it is a longer bolt. Okay, it is. But as you see, man oh man. Get two of them together. There's a bit of a difference in the length, guys. Okay, bit of a difference. And oddly enough, this spring, it appears to be somewhat flat. The Wolf spring is round. Well, no, this is round, rounded, roundish. This may be a replacement because the length on this spring is 3 inch 640 thousandths, rough length. And also, interestingly enough, the diameter of this spring is 466. So this must be a Wolf replacement spring in that gun. Yes, and these are round, it's a rounded wire, whereas the ones from the original Swiss are flat. The springs are flat. But, surprisingly enough, flat spring, thickness of the coil, you know, the wire itself, is about 45 thousandths, and on the round spring, it may be just a hair more because it is round. It's about 50 thousandths. Okay. So if the material is flat, it's an original spring. If the material is a round material in the spring, then it's a replacement spring. So I'm going to assume, because that's an even older gun and this spring is pretty good, that it has a replacement spring in it. So, there we go. Hopefully that explains any mistakes or misunderstandings from my video. And like I said, we've gone through step 1. We're going to do step 2. We're going to go over this bolt and get all the dried oil and stuff off of it and any kind of nicks or weird things, kind of preempting step number 3. And I do have a spring that's a couple pounds stronger. We can bring that to the range if we run into a problem. And hopefully we can get out tomorrow, go out, shoot the reloaded ammo in this bolt with the new spring and see what results we get. If we're still getting light strikes or failures to fire, then we have to go and look at something else. Okay, thanks.